Welcome back to the Brand Bites podcast. We're talking about the challenges of a CMO and our Challenges of CMO series. We are now joined by Danny Austin, who's Technology Director at Ride Shotgun. Danny, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Danny, Technology Director at Ride Shotgun, and I'm taking care of technology projects for client delivery, and also we're looking into internal tools efficiencies throughout the company, make ourselves as efficient as possible, get the right content to the right people as quickly as possible.
Wonderful. So we're talking about technology quite broadly, but we're going to talk a lot, I think, about AI in this episode, particularly because I think you can't not. And I really want to start with you, Helen, and just get your perspective on what the role of AI in marketing is right now.
I mean, we were talking about this a moment ago, weren't we? AI isn't new to our teams. You know, I think we've been using it for many, many years. But I think because of how prevalent it is, I just believe there's a huge opportunity for marketeers from efficiency perspective. You know, it can remove some of those more mundane, boring tasks that we just have to do to enable more time for creativity. So I feel really excited about all of the opportunities that are out there, and I feel like we've been using it for a while, and it's just like, where else? And maybe Danny can sort of share some of that. You know, what are the opportunities for us to push it even further? Because I think, like, it really will, well, it already does enable effectiveness, you know, great efficiencies within the team, take away some of that more mundane task and activity to enable a lot more time for creativity, which is just wonderful.
Yeah, I really appreciate that approach, and we agree completely in that we want to make efficient tasks that are mundane, that can and should be replaced by systems, computer systems. Sometimes it's physical, robotic systems, depending on what the application is. We want to be creative. The reason why we're in this industry is we want to remain at the forefront of creativity and making those decisions ourselves. Maybe we'll get to the end result quicker or faster or more efficiently, but ultimately it's that human deterministic thinking that we want to keep. That's part of our offering.
Yeah.
If we can get there faster using some of these tools, the large language model stuff, we're asking it all sorts of different questions. And I think, again, to your point, how is the training challenge that we need to go through with our people to say, what jobs can we use this for? If we link it with something else, we've seen a lot of tool chaining going on where we've said, start with input data, then take it into a large language model, then take that output to something else, and then we end up with quite a creative solution for a technical problem.
One of the challenges I've heard is around ownership of content. So if a tool sources, I don't know, lady with glowing skin, like, how do we ensure that that's only used for brand A? Because brand B and brand C might have already used it. And at the moment that's done, quite manually, and we make sure that no one else has got like ownership or user rights. So, like, could you help me understand how that will happen?
Yeah, that's a really, really difficult,
Sorry.
a difficult area, and it goes deeper even than that in terms of, and this is probably a thought that most people have had. Where did the original content inspiration come from? I'll say inspiration or the original training data, which is even more important to say. Yes, we're using this content for different brands, but where did it come from in the first place? And so there are some tools like the Adobe tools that have been kind of positioned in a unique place to say we owned all this that we input into our systems, and so therefore we've got the ability to give you the ownership of it. But then in terms of composition and the different types of, like, the examples you just shared, I think it's got to come down to humanized for the first instance. Input the efficiencies, but then don't throw out the QC procedures that you've got tried and tested there. I think over time we can start to maybe batch some of those processes, but still always keep that human QC at the top. I think that's really crucial.
Obviously, when we start to talk about IP as well, ultimately this is going to come down to contracts and that kind of thing. So, Tina, what's the role of procurement in choosing an agency, and how much of a driving role does procurement have in terms of what could and should be automated in here?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that, from a personal point of view, I do see AI as a superpower, which is an article, Zoe Scanlon, the great planner, she did that thing, didn't she? I shared in Tina Tales about 6 weeks ago, where she'd reviewed AI for 18 months and sort of said, from a planner's point of view, and you appreciate that, Stephen, it is a superpower. And I use it quite a lot. I use ChatGPT, and I think it really helps you really sort of push it from my own personal use in thinking about things, etc. I think with my procurement client hat on, we're still finding our feet. I think from a basic procurement point of view, yes, as Helen said, it is about that efficiency, that speedy response. It's about being able to look at reutilising your agency team in the best way. So, to get them focused on the sort of strategy and creative side. I think we are starting to see it come up in contracts. And I think the ownership, as you both said, is an interesting one in terms of is there ever such a thing as an original idea? There's the bias element, if you put in, okay, create a doctor, it's an old white guy. If you create a nurse, it's a white young female, etc. So I think, there's a lot of, I know, procurement clients and organisations are not allowed to use these tools themselves, because obviously there's that old story, isn't there, someone shared some IP, intellectual property, wasn't it, globally somewhere, and they put it into a ChatGPT or something like that, and it was then obviously just used around the world. That's right. and they broached that. So I think we're still finding our feet. I think we're aware of it, but we're really up for it. We think it's really interesting, especially in the area of content, which you guys work in. I think if it can create those efficiencies, that speedy response, that agility, and then we can work with people like yourself and the agencies, how we can better utilise resource, and let's focus on the really important stuff that's really going to drive the results. It's great, and we are starting to see it in contracts in terms of the ownership and making sure that we are covered off. But we're not really seeing it from a creative point of view. You might see it. I actually had a client recently on a pitch ask about, are you using AI? And every agency said, yeah, we're using it in the pitch, but when it comes to then actually doing the work that will work, we won't be using it. So I think it's a great resource to get. I went to a great talk from an agency, a creative guy said, I've had this story in my head for years of an eagle that is an estate agent that can do this. And of course you put it into DALL-E or something like that. And I thought that is brilliant for someone from a creative point of view. It can visualise what he's thinking. But I think it's still tread carefully from a client point of view in terms of the contract and the ownership, as you both said.
I mean, we're starting to touch on threats a little bit and threats to brand. I've seen a couple of different agency pitches over the last few months where one's for a bingo brand and one's for a home interest brand, and it's gone through a generative AI. And basically, the campaign concepts are the same in different colours, because it's coming from the same training data. So obviously there's a question about how do you protect the brand that we've touched on a little bit, but I'm interested to know about what degree AI is a threat to marketers and marketing roles themselves. Helen, shall we start with you?
I think the roles will change. I think that's the thing. I don't know if it's a threat, but I think it comes back to what we were saying a moment ago. Hopefully some of the task-based roles within the roles will be removed. And I think marketeers will be able to lift their heads and continue to do the more creative or the challenge the media buys, or all of those things where you need to add that element of truly understanding your brand, truly understanding what's being delivered, and then the creative excellence. So I don't see it as a threat to marketers. I see it as like a brilliant opportunity to make us more efficient and effective. I think to Tina's point, my understanding is that you can put your data into walled accounts and protect it. And I think if businesses do that, then I think it will enable you to get the insights out so much more quickly, So I'm thoughtful about like data analysts roles and insights and being able to glean competitor information quite quickly through utilising that. And I think that's appealing. It's really appealing to marketers, especially as we were saying earlier, when you're under a lot of pressure to do more, to work faster with smaller teams, then hopefully it's just going to be more helpful.
And I totally agree. I think that you're going to start to see those new skill sets come up from a marketing side and also an agency side in terms of AI management, I think, and data insights and managing that. So I think it's fantastic. I think it's a tool that's sticking around, isn't it? Whereas a few years ago, whatever we were talking about seem to have faded away. And I went to a talk by David Jones, the Brand Tech Group in New York in April, and he said the future, and he would say that because having bought, an integrator, but he said the future is that sort of hybrid model and the role of AI in that. And I just thought, actually, you're right, and very much saw it in a lot of the agencies I saw in New York. People, people like Media Monks and stuff like that. The application of it's fantastic, absolutely, but used in the right way. And I think there are some, people say, oh, we're going to save money. Actually, agencies are saying to me, we're going to charge you more because we've got to invest in the tools. Yeah. We've got to invest in that technology. We've got to invest that skill set. So I think it's really interesting from an agency side about investing in that, getting the payback, but also matching that from a marketing point of view and saying, right, who are the managers of the agencies of the AI technology? What about the data science? And what about technology as well? So I think it's really lifting the skill set of both the agency and marketing, which is absolutely great from my point of view.
We've been having those same conversations about these are our new capabilities. How do we market them? It changes our offering. Do we offer the same for less? Mm-hmm. Do we offer more for more? Do we offer more for less? And there are different cases, pros and cons for each one of those. So it's a challenge. So as much as I like to offer these technologies out and say, here's a new capability, I don't know how we're going to sell this. I don't know what the pitch is, but isn't it cool? Here are the capabilities. Here are the things that we need to watch out for along the lines of ownership. So some of our clients are quite happy for us to use content generated using AI systems, and some are very, very cautious about those because of some of the maybe unknowns. I wouldn't say for this reason or that reason. It's more about we really can't fully define this, and we were at a conference, Agency Hackers. The robots are coming, which is a really cool name for the conference, and there was a show of hands, who really knows what's going on in terms of the training of your data. And there's, a few people saying we don't really know, but we are communicating with our clients. That's something that we're really keen on, so long as we're open and honest and saying, we'd like to use this. Are you happy with that? Or just to say, the scamps or the concept and imagery that we've been generating, we have used these tools, but rest assured, you've told us you want the real deal, if you like. That's what we're going to do for you. But we don't want to restrict our clients who might say, we want to jump in, take a risk. And I think that's okay.
It must be quite challenging thinking about the kind of technology to invest in as well, because I think, what you were saying, Tina, about it costs agencies, doesn't it? A huge amount to invest in having that. But the technology is advancing so quickly.
Very quickly.
Like it could take you 6-9 months to develop something and then suddenly it's out of date. So how do you?
Yeah, so we've pitched ourselves to really do lots and lots of research, lots of looking around. How are people using this brand new stuff? Watching for the failures, watching for the learning curves that people are going on. And at that crest of the wave to say, now it's ready. We can take this. They've already been through that journey. We know where it's heading. Now they're using it for what we think they should be using it for. We're going to onboard that now. Or we might see a technology that's almost there, adopt it and then chain it with something else to say, this got us 80% through this process. That's great. That's halved our time for that particular task. That's 50% more than we had before. So it doesn't always have to be the entire task. Sometimes it can just be parts of. So the ChatGPT or the large language model stuff, it could just be sorting information very, very quickly at the front end, get all that efficiency, and then you slide back into a more traditional process. Or it could be something that has just been tried and tested. One of the things that we're looking at the moment is there's lots and lots of online tools available, subscription models. Love a subscription model. You're paying monthly. It doesn't scale very well internally because you've got lots and lots of artists using the same stuff. You've standardized its usage. You've got to go for the pro models because that prevents your data being part of the training model, which is usually the sore point. What we're really looking for is this crest of this wave, which allows us to host this kind of system internally. So we're looking at some open source models that have lots and lots of different modules that you can chain yourself to develop specific tools for us. So it could be style changes, or it could be background changes, or it could just be automation. So I think, research is the key for us to find out what other people are doing and then take those benefits into our systems.
There's loads of tools, aren't there? I mean, there's like
so many
absolute tools. And actually in New York, we saw Brand Tech actually developed a brand in 59 minutes. from the idea, you know, what it was, you know, just, I mean, you know, obviously time lapse, but you think the power of that, using those different applications, what was the product, you know, design the product, what charity it would support, create the assets, measure it, 59 minutes. I mean, it was quite mind-blowing, really. But, you know, and that's what, I suppose, that's what having great partners is about, isn't it, in terms of you guys are leading the way in doing that and doing the research and actually saying, well, there is this app for this and there is that for that, and we've tried and tested it. But as you said, Danny, it's then what's the cost model, which from a procurement point of view, we'd want to know about. So, you know, is it an hourly rate? You know, is it pay by result? So, yeah, let me know when you've worked out how you're going to charge.
Sure.
How, and on that topic, like, how do you see the structure of marketing teams, whether that's kind of a client agency relationship or whether that's inside the brand organization itself? How do you see the structure of things changing as this technology becomes more prevalent?
I think it's more collaborative. I think it always has been, but I think, you know, especially the use of data, as you were saying, providing that sort of personalisation as well. So I think, as always, you know, the reason, you know, I love and we all love working in this category is so fast moving. You know, we're not buying the glass that doesn't really change or the raw material, the direct side of things. You know, it's a brilliant category to be involved in marketing, and we all love doing it. But it is so fast moving, isn't it? And you have to keep up to date with what's going on. And for me, it's always about collaboration. And I think that's what, you know, be it AI and be it other tech or whatever, it always, you know, you're in the trenches together and you're learning, and we're really relying on sort of suppliers and partners to sort of take us on that journey. But equally, it's up to procurement and marketing to challenge, to invest, and then really, you know, we want to be the client of choice. We want you to come to us with that innovative, but it's very much about collaboration and having that team effort, but also being that one step ahead. But, you know, and sort of looking a bit back, but sort of going forward, like Danny said, in terms of test and learn, and let's look at the next new thing, but working as a team and communicating.
Danny, have you already seen client organizations changing as a result of this? Is this already happening, or is this something that still feels near, just not quite there yet?
I think it depends. Sometimes it depends on the size. Sometimes it's the content style. So sometimes it's quite sensitive stuff, and usually we'll find that there's a reticence to really jump in and take risks. With some of the more fast-paced content agencies, there's more appetite for risk there, and I think that's what it comes down to is risk appetite. So started to see some change there. Started to see some job titles have AI in them, which is interesting. Sometimes it's a slash maybe, so it's a specialist in a certain area. I think that's somewhere where we could go, and where we might see the industry going, a specialist within different departments to say, you know, if you do have concerns or questions around legals and around the risks, come to the specialist and they'll say, yeah, you just need to tweak your workflow there. So I think that's where we'll see most of it, but I haven't seen tons yet.
I think it is about efficiency, isn't it? When you were talking, Tina, I was thinking, like, what is amazing about marketing is that it's always changing. It's forever changing and forever evolving. And it's not one of those jobs that you suddenly get bored of because you think, I've seen it and done it all. And therefore, I think the teams do change and do adapt, as you've said. But it's almost like one of those things that you don't quite realise is happening.
Right.
Like, if you think back to how marketing teams used to be structured and the roles and responsibilities versus now, and it's totally different, isn't it? But I think that's what keeps it interesting. And I think for us, it was driven by efficiency, not risk. You know, it was like, what is it that these tools can do that just make it faster and easier for us? You know, whether it's generation of copy lines or, just like some things that might have gone externally and taken a while and come back, you can suddenly produce things quite quickly. So
yeah, and then everybody becomes a little bit of an AI specialist.
Yeah.
And then as that, as you said, it's a granular change over time. Yeah. And as much as it hit the news really, really hard, everybody's doing AI.
Yeah.
It's the big thing. There's again another crest of this wave, and it's starting to normalize. And people are saying, "Okay, let's be serious about this. I'm using this every day. I'm using it for my shopping lists. I'm using it for my big data at work to find out where the patterns lay." And I think it will just be that natural going forward.
Yeah, or using it to switch the lights on in your house or to book a taxi to get. We've been using it for a long time, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're only going to use it more. I think that is a perfect place to wrap up. So I'm going to say thank you to Tina Fegent. Thank you, Helen Jeremiah. Thank you, Danny Austin. Thank you, Andy Weir, who's over there somewhere. And join us next time for another episode of Brand Bites.